Welcome to CerebralDecode. You're listening to Office Politics, The Invisible Game, a reflection on the hidden forces shaping modern workplaces. Disclaimer. This audiobook discusses real-world leadership and organizational examples purely for educational and analytical purposes. All references are based on publicly available information, and interpretations are solely for learning and reflection. The anatomy of influence. Power in the workplace often hides in plain sight. While an organizational chart outlines formal authority, it rarely reflects the true web of influence. Influence is not about hierarchy, it's about access, timing, and trust. Those who understand this difference position themselves more strategically in any environment. The case of Katharine Graham. Invisible power, visible impact. Katharine Graham was never supposed to lead. When she became publisher of the Washington Post in 1963, after the tragic death of her husband, she stepped into a world dominated by powerful men and deeply entrenched hierarchies. In her early years, Graham often deferred to others, doubting her own ability to lead. She was considered polite, soft-spoken, and uncertain. Hardly the profile of a power player, but she watched, she listened, and she learned. Quietly, over time, she built her own leadership style, one based on integrity, discretion, and a deep understanding of institutional loyalty. Her leadership style wasn't marked by grand speeches or theatrical gestures, but by consistency and moral clarity. When the Pentagon Papers were leaked in 1971, Graham faced a decision that could define or end her career. Publishing the classified documents would pit the Washington Post against the US government and could invite legal and financial ruin. Her legal counsel warned her of the risk. Her board was divided. Many in her circle advised caution, but Graham chose to publish. Then came Watergate. Again, the pressure was immense. The White House was watching. Nixon's administration retaliated through legal threats and political manipulation, but Graham stood by her journalists even as advertisers threatened to withdraw and board members feared public backlash. Her support wasn't loud, it was unshakable. Behind the scenes, she formed key alliances with attorneys, newsroom editors, and business partners. She used her influence sparingly, but when it mattered most, it came with weight. Graham's leadership eventually helped position the Washington Post as a beacon of press freedom and integrity. Her decision-making during these historic moments earned the respect of both her allies and adversaries. By the time she retired in the early 1990s, she had not only transformed her own reputation, but reshaped an entire institution. Her journey from self-doubt to decisive leadership is proof that quiet influence, when coupled with trust, conviction, and timing, can move the world. Mapping the shadow org chart. Influence is not magic, it's psychology. And it doesn't with control, it begins with connection. At its core, influence is powered by two forces, credibility and likability. One says, I trust you. The other says, I want to support you. When both are present, people don't just follow, they believe. Social psychology reinforces this. We're hardwired to be guided by those who appear both competent and caring. If you're only smart, you may be respected but resented. If you're only kind, you may be liked but overlooked. Real influence arises at the intersection of both, when others see that you know what you're doing and you're not doing it just for yourself. This is why reciprocity is such a powerful force. People feel compelled to return what they receive: trust, support, respect. When you speak up for others, acknowledge their ideas, or share credit, you're not just being generous. You're investing in a psychological bank account. One day, when you need support for a proposal, a risk, or a turning point, that investment pays interest. Consider Katharine Graham again. Her influence didn't come from issuing commands or playing power games. It came from consistency. From being there for her newsroom when they were under siege, from standing beside her editors when lawyers and politicians told her to stand down. She didn't ask for loyalty, she earned it. And over time, her presence came to symbolize something rare in leadership: safety. What Graham did, behavioral scientists call social validation, The process of aligning yourself with shared values, not impose authority. People followed her not because they had to, but because they believed she saw what they saw, cared about what they cared about, and wouldn't fold under pressure. In your environment, the same dynamic applies. Influence doesn't come from dominating the space. It comes from owning your role, lifting others up, and being visible in moments that matter. Not loud, but clear. Not perfect, but trustworthy. And above all, not just focused on outcomes, but on people. Because the paradox is this: when people feel seen and safe, they give you more power than any title ever could. The psychology of influence. Influence relies on two drivers: credibility, people trust your expertise or consistency, and likability, people enjoy supporting you. Social psychology teaches us that humans are wired to follow those they perceive as competent and caring. This aligns with reciprocity theory. The more you support others, the more they'll support you in return. Katharine Graham earned her newsroom's loyalty because she backed her team when it mattered. She practiced what behavioral science calls social validation, earning influence by aligning with core values, not commands. Over time, her quiet strength transformed public perception and internal culture. The reversal. When influence becomes a threat. There's a limit. When your influence grows too strong without the matching title or political cover, it can attract jealousy or suspicion. In some organizations, informal power is viewed as rebellion. Leaders may fear that their control is being undermined. Graham faced this subtly: pressure from board members, politicians, and peers who questioned her assertiveness. But because she had built her influence on institutional trust and ethical clarity, she survived it. For others, the lesson is caution. If you rise too fast in the shadow org chart without shielding or allies, the backlash can be severe. Turning awareness into leverage. True influence isn't about charisma or volume, it's about awareness. In every meeting, decision, or hallway exchange, something deeper is unfolding. An emotional current, a pecking order, a moment of tension or opportunity. Most people miss it, but the politically intelligent don't. They read the room, not just the agenda. They notice who is speaking, but also who is listening, who is left out, who seems anxious, and who needs reassurance. They know when to remain quiet and when to ask the one question that reframes the entire conversation. Take the example of Katharine Graham, the publisher of the Washington Post. In the early days, she wasn't seen as powerful. Her leadership was questioned. Her confidence wavered, but Graham had something rare. She paid attention. She watched how alliances formed, how influence shifted behind closed doors, and how decisions were actually made. She built quiet coalitions, earned trust in small moments, and developed political intuition not by talking more, but by listening better. So when the storm came, the Pentagon Papers, the Watergate scandal, she was ready. Not because she planned to be a crusader, but because she had cultivated the currency of influence before she ever had to spend it. She didn't posture, she didn't bluff, she moved decisively, and the institution followed. In your own workplace, you don't need to be the loudest, the boldest, or the one constantly seeking the spotlight. That kind of visibility fades quickly. Instead, become the one who sees, learn who the real decision makers are, not just by title, but by trust. Learn who influences whom, how moods shift in key meetings, and where power flows rather than where it sits. Because in the end, authority gets attention, but influence gets things done. And the person who understands that distinction will always find ways to move forward, even in systems built to hold them back. You've reached the end of this section. If this reflection speaks to you, please support this channel by liking and subscribing. You're listening to Cerebral Decode. Think deeper, play smarter.